Welcome to In Her Voice. My name is Kelly Covert, and I am passionate about helping women live authentically by listening to their inner voice. Get ready to be inspired by women of all walks of life that have set aside their should-bes and not good enoughs and are standing in their true voice, the voice of wisdom that each and every one of us has inside. Hi, you guys, this is Kelly, and you are listening to In Her Voice, and I am so excited that you press play today. It's just me today, solo episode, and it's going to be a quickie, but I have really felt the pull to talk about grace, giving yourself grace, and you may not even know what that means. There might be people who don't know what that means, and you know what? Perfect, awesome, because I want to tell you, number one, what it means, and number two, why we need to do more of it. So what I mean when I say give myself grace, give yourself grace, that means like go easy on yourself. Give yourself permission to screw up. Give yourself permission to take a day off. Allow yourself the notion that you do not have to be perfect. Not only is it not required, it's not possible. When we give ourselves grace, we're saying, take a breath. It's okay, honey. You're still good enough. You're still worthy. You're still loved. It's okay. And I just love this idea of grace. And you know, where I learned grace was growing up in church. Because, you know, in the church that I grew up with, we talked about God's grace for us, like that God loves us even though we're sinners. And I think that we can take that and we can apply that in our own life. Like we must love ourselves despite of all the stupid, dumb, not perfect, all of the things that we do. You know what? Giving yourself that grace allows you to love yourself. It's a practice. And I'm talking about this today because I've been having to give myself a lot of grace lately. And honestly, a lot of times when I do that, when I give myself grace, I sort of give it to myself conditionally, which is, by the way, not how grace works. And so I'm speaking this as much for you as for me. So I'll give you a perfect example. Last week, I did not get my solo episode out until Sunday. It was on Sunday that it came out. And I actually took my notes on it. I brainstormed on it on Wednesday, and it just didn't happen. And it was mostly because I took a break. I gave myself grace to not do the podcast, to not have it out on Thursday. But what I did was I gave myself grace with a condition, like, well, you can do this, but you still suck. You can do this, but you're really supposed to have it out on Thursday. You can do this, it's okay, but you still should still feel guilty about it. And you know what? Listen up, you guys. That is not true grace. True grace is saying, it's okay. I love you anyway. Perfection is not required. I feel like I want to get a picture or paint those words on my studio wall. Perfection is not required. But what is required? Grace. What is required? Love. What is required? An understanding that we are worthy. Those are the things that are required, you guys. So when we start to recognize that we can give ourselves that grace to screw up, to take time off, to not be perfect, you know, to have those days where, you know what, there are going to be days where you yell at your kids. Give yourself grace for that. And that's not the same as like making an excuse. Like I want to be really clear, like this is not about making excuses, right? It's about understanding that we are not perfect. So give yourself grace. And why is it important? Because if we don't do that, two things happen. Number one, we beat ourselves up, right? We expect like all of this perfection. We expect things to look a certain way. And when they don't, it makes us not good enough. We tell ourselves a story, right? That, well, I'm not good enough. I can't do it, or I screwed up, or I'm not capable, whatever our story is, right? My story tends to be I'm not good enough. And then we act out on that. Well, if I'm not good enough to do that, then I'm not good enough to do that. And then we can spiral out in that way. And that doesn't feel good. Okay. So the other piece of that is when we don't give ourselves grace, we tend to be the kind of people that don't give other people grace. Okay. So just like we shouldn't expect ourselves to be perfect, we can't expect that of other people. And I know for me, when I started to come to this realization that I am worthy now, and I applied that to myself, that I was able to apply that to other people. And all of a sudden, I can meet people where they are. I can give them the grace that they need, like my kids, my husband, the people that I work with. So it really opens up and it expands our view of what it means to connect with people, right? Because if you're always expecting everyone else to be perfect, just like you expect yourself to be perfect, you're going to be disappointed a lot in other people and in yourself. And you know what? Being disappointed, I don't know if you have experience in being disappointed. I know I have a lot. It is not fun. It is not joyful. It is not something that I look forward to. And I've done an episode before on expectations, but really when we let go of expectations, all of a sudden there is so much freedom there. What would happen if we had no expectations of other people? And I think that sometimes that sounds like a negative thing, like, oh, I have no expectations. It's not about expecting something bad either. It's just about being open to what is. And when we're open to what is, that also allows us to have grace when the what is not quite what we want. When the what is not quite where we're shooting for in our own lives and in others. So I just want to say today to you, give yourself grace. Allow that grace to come over you, to flow over you. Give yourself permission to not be perfect, yet still be enough. What would happen? What would happen if you honored that in you today? What would happen if you honored that in someone else today? Give yourself permission to not be perfect and at the same time to be enough. That's all I have for you today. I feel like this is for someone. This is for you. If you are listening and this is for you, I want to say to you right now, right this second, you are so enough. You are so enough. You do not have to be perfect because you are worthy.